So I'm Priya, and I'm the author of Ultimate Dining Hall Hacks, and I wanted to take some time and talk to you guys about my book, my background, and obviously the only reason people come to these things is to eat. So we'll eat some delicious pasta and dessert. So my background is I graduated 2 years ago, and I showed up to college kind of, as most college students do, really lost and confused and not knowing what I wanted to do. I was fresh off my high school debate team, so I thought maybe I wanted to be a lawyer. But then I started writing for my school newspaper and realized I loved writing, but what I really wanted to do was write about food. There were a total of 5 restaurants in Hanover, so my first thought was doing restaurant reviews, but that would have only lasted for 5 weeks, so quickly nixed that idea. And then I was sitting in my cafeteria I took toast, took a piece of bread, toasted it, put olive oil, salt, pepper, and herbs on it, and I was sitting with my sister, and she was like, what are you doing there? And I was like, oh, I'm just making lunch. And I guess background, growing up, I was really irresponsible with kitchen appliances. I left stoves on, left the oven on. So my parents banned me around age 12 from using kitchen appliances. But I loved cooking, so I used to get really creative. There's this one thing that I made all the time, my signature dish that I called slimy swamp pie, where I would take Oreos and put them in a Ziploc bag, crush those Oreos with a whipped cream can, throw a ton of butter, mix it up, and then put it in a thing and freeze it, and then put pudding on top and dye that pudding green so it looked like a swamp. And I called it slimy swamp pie, and that was my signature dish that I would make. My parents were totally happy because it did not require me to use an oven, and it was butter and Oreos and pudding, so it obviously tasted delicious. So I guess that was sort of the way that I thought going into college, just sort of taking the ingredients and how can I make this into something really amazing. So she suggested that I try to make that into a column for my newspaper. So I started writing this column called the Dartmouth Dining Services Detective, the DDS Detective. Dartmouth Dining Services is our dining provider. A lot of colleges will have Aramark or Bon Appetit, places like that, do their meals, but we had a private company. So I started basically just hacking our dining hall and coming up with different recipes every week that you could make using only those ingredients. And I really, really loved it, and it was really fun. And I realized I was doing a service to students because, you come to college, your freshman year, you're usually forced to be on a meal plan, and you don't really have the time or the resources to cook or clean or prep or buy ingredients or any of that. So I thought, why not help students make the most of this meal plan that they have pre-purchased and tend to get sick of? Because dining halls are not, when you think of a dining hall, in pop culture, when students are eating at a cafeteria or dining hall, it's usually really, really gross food. And my goal with the column was to kind of change people's perception of the dining halls and what kind of food the dining halls could offer. So from there, I got hired by my school's dining services as a student consultant. So I basically helped design their menus. I served as liaison between the students and the administration. And one day, they emailed me being we are going to this conference for college food services, but you're the only one who's Dartmouth driver certified. And it was this group of very old men and me. So I drove a bus full of 10 Dartmouth dining administrators to this conference. And they're well, do you want to come in? So I came in, and I started interviewing people about the ingredients they had at their dining halls and the equipment they had access to, and ended up getting a ton of research, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And I thought maybe this need that I found at Dartmouth of people not knowing what to do with their mandatory meal plan, I can apply that to other places. So I started universalizing my recipes and eventually came to 75, which are the 75 recipes in Ultimate Dining Hall Hacks. And I'm going to demo 2 of those today. So the first one is called, I think in the book it's called Creamy Avocado Pasta. But basically one thing that I find really useful when you're thinking about the dining hall is dining halls are separated into a bunch of different stations. That's usually a salad bar here, panini press, sandwich line, grill, saute bar, maybe a vegetarian kosher section, maybe a soft serve machine if they're a little fancier, or a waffle maker. And people tend to only think within those stations. So if there's a sauce here, it can only be in places in the station. So if there's teriyaki sauce, it can only go on the teriyaki stir fry in that area. But with this recipe, I thought, what if you could take something that a lot of dining halls have, which is either guacamole or just like mashed avocado, and turn that into a sauce. I wanted to do something in the book that was like a homemade sauce, but it's also obviously very hard to make like homemade tomato sauce or homemade pesto. So I thought, I was like trolling some vegan blogs and discovered that people were making avocado into a sauce, and so I decided to do that and then add cheese so that it wasn't vegan. And I really like cheese. Alright, so this one's really easy. You just like take pasta. I use fusilli, but I really like spaghetti. I feel like this was easier for tasting, but I really like making it with spaghetti. Like angel hair is really, really, really good. And then to make the sauce, you basically just, where's the salt and pepper? Here it is. Take some salt and pepper, and kind of like, however much you like. My dad's like obsessed with pepper, and so I just have like a fear of over peppering things, because everything he makes ever just tastes like has a ton of pepper in it. So I'm not gonna be really conservative with the pepper, and then you put a little bit of salt, but not too much because you're about to add cheese. Like cheese, if you're adding cheese and soy sauce to something, better to be conservative with the salt, because those are natural salty things. And then you throw in the feta. We've got kind of a big piece of feta. Alright, this is kind of a lot for this particular serving, so definitely don't put all of this or it'll just be feta pasta. And you mix that together. I'll put a little more feta. I hope you guys like cheese. Alright. Maybe that much is good. The beauty of these recipes is you literally can add as little or as much of anything as you want. Like if you hate feta, for example, you can add less feta, or if you like mozzarella or Parmesan, you can use that too. It like really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm just gonna keep adding cheese because for some reason it keeps disappearing in this pasta sauce. All right, and then you squeeze a little bit of these lemon slices. So you can usually find lemon slices like where they keep the tea or the coffee. They're always usually lemon slices. They're just always there. I once watched this really terrifying documentary about how unsanitary like restaurant lemon slices are. So depending on your paranoia levels, maybe you can omit it or not, or like maybe use like lemonade instead. All right, I'm just gonna add more feta. It just keeps disappearing. This could be really cheesy. It's hard to say. All right. I feel like that's probably good. And you just kind of mix that up into a sauce. And then you dress your pasta. We're just gonna do that. And you can also make it as chunky or not chunky as possible. I kind of wanted to make it a little bit on the smoother side because, I feel like that was more saucy. But I mean, it's kind of up to your preference. Ooh, I'm gonna add a little more pasta or something. All right, I have more pasta. Some more pasta in here. There we go. It's really pro cooking demo. All right, cool. And then you just kind of mix it together, and that's pretty much it. You just kind of want to make sure that it all gets incorporated and that your ratios are good, because you don't want it to be like, you don't want it to look like guacamole that has like sprigs of pasta in it, but you also don't want it to be like underdressed or underseasoned. So once that's all mixed up, and it's easier, like I'm making it in big quantities, but typically you're making it in your dining hall, so you're not like hosting a dinner party at the dining hall. But I have like dreams and fantasies about doing that one day. All right. And, okay, so now we'll plate a little bit of it, and then maybe I'll put some feta on top of each plate, just cause. All right, so you want to plate that, and then you can put some feta on top. So that is the avocado pasta. I'm going to a little bit. So it's really, really easy, and all of these ingredients you can pretty much find in a dining hall. And if you don't have avocados, they're just like, you can literally make a sauce out of like olive oil, lemon, feta, and anything else, and it's bound to taste good. There's just certain combinations that taste good in everything. Like melting cheese on anything tastes really good. Tomato, mozzarella, balsamic, pesto tastes really good on everything. peanut butter and jelly tastes good on almost anything. Maybe not pasta, but there is a recipe for kugel, which is like a sweeter pasta. So maybe you could make the case for peanut butter and jelly pasta. But one of my favorite combinations is like avocados in anything. So that's the pasta. And now we're gonna make a recipe. And by that I mean you guys are gonna make a recipe. So if everyone wants to, here, I'll just come give everyone a cup. If you want to take one and pass one. Alright. And then, if you want to pass around these two. So you should take one sugar packet, or two if you really like it sweet, and one cream cheese. I mean, it's whatever you want. All right. Ooh, can I grab it? Oh, it is. Yeah. All right. Oh wow, this fits like almost perfectly into the cup. That's amazing. Didn't even plan that. All right, so the dessert section of my book is probably my favorite section, mostly because you can put most sweet things with other sweet things, and it will most likely taste really good. So whereas there are like 10 pasta recipes, there's like 50 dessert recipes. There's like almost 50. Like in the table of contents, I don't have a copy of the book with me, but in the table of contents, you can see there's like bowls to demonstrate how many of each recipe there are, and the dessert one is like, goes up all the way to the top of the page. Because I love dessert, and I think it's one of those realms that allows you to be really, really creative. Because again, there like aren't really any set rules, and again, sweet and sweet will most likely taste good. So I didn't really discover cheesecake until late in the game. My mom convinced me that I only liked chocolate desserts from a young age. So I was offered cheesecake in first grade, and I didn't want to tell people that like I did only eat chocolate cake. So I told them that I was on a diet, and I was like in first grade, and I had to like have a talk with the principal, and my mom was like, you can eat like white colored desserts if you want. I just like assumed you only like chocolate. And so that's when I started eating cheesecake, and I discovered it and thought it was great. One of my favorite things to do with cheesecake is to put jam on it. So this is a cheesecake recipe that you can make really easily and put jam on it. Ooh. All right, so maybe everyone should have a knife too. So the best kind of cookie to use for these are like mushy crust-like cookies, like Momofuku Milk Bar is this confetti cookie that's really, really good. I feel like that would be perfect for this, but obviously that's not in dining hall. So really whatever cookie you have on hand. You can use chocolate chip, like dark chocolate, peanut butter, whatever. But sugar cookie I think works the best. It's like the most representative, like a typical crust. You can even use like a graham cracker actually. Graham crackers aren't really something you find in a dining hall, but if you have one, it's like the perfect graham cracker crust. Anyways, so you take your cream cheese and you put some sugar in it. I'm gonna put 2 packets of sugar because I really like it sweet. And you just kind of mix it up with whatever you have. It's blown away in the wind. And so this is like the cream cheese, like filling of your cheesecake. I'm making a mess of this table. All right, there you go. And then you take your cookie and you spread cream cheese on it like this. There we go. Just like that. And then you stick it back in. And then you take jam, which I'll pass around. Ugh. And you put a little dollop on top. Here, you guys can. Here, I'm gonna set this down here. Ready? The jam on top. And in a dining hall, they'll have like mugs that you use for coffee and stuff, and so this is perfect for that. So once you put the jam on, you guys, I'll let her. How's everyone doing with the? Yeah. That's the other thing, jam, I'm kind of like a dork about jam, and that I think that strawberry preserves is like the best thing to use for this. I don't know anyone who I like that likes grape jelly. That's a bold statement, but I think it's true. I think strawberry preserves is the best thing because you get like the chunks of fruit. It's like not too sweet, it's a little tart. Actually, strawberry rhubarb would work really well for this. But yeah, strawberry I think generally, maybe raspberry, but like I think strawberry is probably the best. Like when you go to like a fancy place where they serve you cheesecake, they'll give you like kind of like a strawberry like coulis situation on the side, and that's like my favorite thing to do is to like dip it in and get all the flavors. All right, so once you do that, the best thing to do is to kind of like reach in. Does everyone have a spoon? This is a little harder with this cookie, so it's like, so you kind of, I'm gonna use a fork actually. I think a fork probably works better in this case, I am learning. Hey. And you kind of get a bite that has like cream cheese. That's an ideal bite, I'd say. Cream cheese, strawberry, and it just tastes exactly like cheesecake. And it's like you don't even have to put like condensed milk in it or like make a crust. I can even make this at home if you just like don't feel like making cheesecake and you want to taste what cheesecake tastes like. Yeah. So that's the other thing. You can totally modify this. You can even make like you can even use like frosting, or like you could put like ice cream on this. Just like I think the point is that a cookie makes a great like crust or base for anything. Like whether you want to like do like a pie crust thing and put like you can take a cookie, you could take apples and cinnamon and sugar and microwave that and then put it on top and then like put cream cheese and it would taste like this. I feel like that would taste really good. There are kind of endless possibilities, like fruit on top of this, chocolate on top of this, just like straight jam on top of it would be really good. So yeah, that's how you make cheesecake in a cup. So yeah, I guess one of the most interesting things I discovered while I was reading this book is mostly just that college students are taking more of an interest in food than they ever have before. When I work for Lucky Peach, which is this food magazine, and I like manage our subscription system, and it's always amazing to me to see how many people that are our subscribers that are between the ages of like 18 and 22. So you guys really care about food, and that's amazing to me. There's entire websites like BuzzFeed Food, Vice Munchies, like Food and Wine is this new site called FWX. They're all built like for college students, and I think that because you guys were born into a generation where food was already becoming a mainstream culture, it's something that it's like really inherent for you guys to care about the food that you eat. And you see that dining halls are becoming so much more robust and so much better at providing good food and providing choice. Like 5 years ago, my book couldn't have existed because you basically had like 3 or 4 set entrees and you could only choose between those, and if you didn't like that entree, you were in luck. And now there's options for vegetarians, gluten-free, paleo. Everything's moving towards a la carte and choice and customization, and I feel like that's amazing, and because it means that you can eat a lot better, you can eat a lot more varied and eat in a lot more of a diverse way. So I think the bottom line is that people don't really view college or dining halls as something that's appealing or an appealing time to be eating. People go to college and all they want is to like go home and eat their mom's food. But at the end of the day, like all these recipes are inspired by traveling abroad, eating my mom's homemade meals. So I hope at the end of the day, the book helps people realize that, college students deserve to eat well in college too. Yeah, thanks. Are there any questions or anything for anyone? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to keep eating this.
Well, so while you were testing these recipes, did you end up having a lot of things that tasted kind of weird, or like how did you end up fixing them, and what was kind of your process in terms of that? Did you have an inspiration, then you would try to do that, or were you just like, I'm going to throw these things together?
Yeah, my inspiration kind of came from a lot of sources. Like I said, like a lot of it was from my mom, stuff that she would make growing up. Her and my dad like immigrated here, and they had pretty much no money, so they got really good at making a lot with very little. And so I think it's inspired a lot by that. From traveling, from stuff I read in magazines. One of like the weirdest stories, I was looking for inspiration. I was reading like a Martha Stewart magazine, and I discovered this like amazing recipe for like a layered ice cream cake, and I was really excited, and I was like, I can make this in a dining hall. It was like basically like cake, ice cream, and jam. I just like love jam-based recipes, and I was so excited I fell off my elliptical. And I was like on the phone with my friend being like, I found this great recipe, and I fell off the elliptical, and everyone's staring at me. So inspiration really can strike at any time. A disaster recipe, I was testing out like a bunch, and I thought I could do like a variation on corn pudding. And I just made this absolutely disgusting mixture of like corn and like hot sauce and like just really gross things, and I thought it would be really good, and like I could write about like my southern roots, but like I'm not really southern, and it just wasn't gonna happen. So I nixed that recipe. Yeah, that was one of the bigger disasters. A lot of things I realized if you just like melted cheese on them, they would taste good. So there are a lot of recipes that's like, and then you melt cheese on it, because melted cheese makes everything better, and it's universally available in a dining hall.
So it's awesome. You're only a year out of school and you've already published a book. That's amazing. When in college did you sort of have the idea that you might want to turn your column into a published work?
I guess it was when I had just like come off starting my job with Dartmouth Dining Services, and I had all of this research, and I was working at the Food Network, and I realized that food was something I wanted to make into a career, and I wasn't really sure what I would do with it, and I had a lot of like free evenings, and I just kind of started writing. I guess even before that I started writing. My junior winter of college, I decided to just not take classes one term and just hang out at Dartmouth. And then I broke my wrist. I was going to do like a bunch of winter activities, and I broke my wrist, so I couldn't do anything. And so I just kind of sat in the library and like typed up my recipes and tried to universalize them. And so by the time I was in the summer, I had this just like manuscript of recipes, and I was like, maybe I should do something to it. So I Googled how to write a book proposal, and then just started writing a book proposal. So yeah, it wasn't the like most glamorous of stories, but I'm here now. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for people who are going into college and maybe they have allergies, or they're trying to be gluten-free, or they're vegetarian? Are there any kind of ways to adjust dining hall food to kind of spice that up and make it more interesting in your book?
Yeah, I think one of the best parts of the book is that every recipe is kind of made to be customizable and adaptable. So if there's like an element that like disagrees with your dietary preferences, you can always just take it out and replace it with something else. I think also something that's really cool is that dining halls are providing a lot more different options, like gluten-free pasta, like vegetarian options, like non-dairy yogurt, non-dairy ice cream. So you really can, at dining halls that are like at least at any average dining hall, you'll find that you can kind of adapt any of the recipes to fit your dietary preferences. But I think the best thing to do if you have those dietary preferences is to go with the a la carte options and build something yourself. Because it's more fun and you're like aware of what goes into your body. I feel like people ask me all the time if the book is like a healthy book, and I feel like part of being healthy is just like knowing what you're eating, and that's why they say like cooking for yourself, no matter what you're cooking, is really good for you. I think that the process of just going and like putting these things together makes you more aware of what you're eating, and I think awareness is the first step. So yeah. Are there any other questions, thoughts?
When you were working on the column, did you ever get any kind of fun feedback, like people writing in, I tried this, it worked, or like, here's my own take on these recipes?
Yeah,
like that?
So one of the coolest things, I like walked in the dining hall one day and this happened a couple times, some guy had like my column in one hand and was like making what was in my column with the other hand. That's the first time I realized that like I wasn't writing the column just for my dad and that people are actually reading it. And then a guy on the football team came up to me. I have this really weird recipe in my cookbook. It's actually really good, called Asian Nachos. It's basically you take tortilla chips and you layer like sushi from the sashimi bar that most dining halls actually have, and you put like avocados and like chili sauce and like chili mayo and sweet soy sauce on it. And this like football bro basically came up to me and was like, that's all the football team will eat. It's got fish, it's got carbs, like we love it. And yeah, and I also got, on the flip side of that, I got like really funny feedback of people who were like, I tried this amazing thing the other day. I like put cheese between two pieces of bread and grilled it, and it was this amazing like grilled cheese sandwich. Or like I like put tomatoes and mozzarella together and it's like a great salad. So I was like, I tried to be like, obviously those are more obvious things, so I tried to like be as nice, not like I was any authority on food, but I was trying to like do things that are a little bit different. I also got a lot of Facebook messages of people just taking a picture of what they'd eaten and being like, I think I did this creatively, like thought you'd like to know. So that was, I don't know, it was kind of cool. Any feedback was exciting, because I literally thought that like no one was reading. Like I was a freshman, I didn't know that many people, I like watched a lot of The Office my first term, so I didn't make that many friends, so I just had no idea who was reading it. So yeah, that was exciting.
That's terrific. Do you have any other questions out there this evening? No?
Cool.
All right,
Thanks for
let's give
coming.
Priya another hand. Yeah. We do